Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to our panel this afternoon. I really appreciate you showing up, especially on the after lunch spot. My name is Yolande Piazza, and I lead the financial services practice here at Google Cloud. And I thought before we jump into talking about what we're going to discuss with my esteemed panelists here, Sunil and Rich, I thought it only seemed fitting, seeing as we are following on the theme of AI, to show you a video about how we think AI can actually really start to influence and create the power of how to change customer experiences. So with that, can we roll the video, please? So pretty powerful stuff, right? I think I'm always constantly amazed that when I talk to customers, to our financial services customers, the never-ending suggestions and creativity about the potential and the power of these use cases continue to blow my mind. But as we start to look at what these opportunities unlock, I think we're all just super excited about the potential opportunities, whether it's from the opportunity to drive out cost in the organization, to accelerate growth within the business lines and increase, the relationship with your customer, to managing fraud or developer productivity. And hopefully, as you're going through your sessions, you're seeing a little bit of that everywhere throughout your experience at Next today. But with that, let us switch over a little bit and talk a little bit more about grounding on AI as a practice overall. So with me, I have Sunil and Rich, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But the objective of the panel is really to understand a little bit more about what is your vision, how are you thinking about the practice, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered, because you are further along on your journey than some, and unpack that a little bit, and then we'll get to what's your prediction for the future, if that makes sense. So Sunil, Rich, if I can ask you just to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Thank you, Yo. So I'm Sunil Cutinho. I'm the CIO of CME Group. For those of you who don't know, CME operates one of the world's largest financial markets in both spot and derivatives. So in addition to markets, we also manage risk. We have one of the world's most diverse and largest clearinghouses.
And my name is Rich May. I'm the excuse me, Group Head of Financial Crime for Commercial Banking and Global Banking and Markets at HSBC. And for the last 4 years, been working on, in partnership with Google Cloud, AML AI product that we've deployed within our bank.
Awesome. Thank you both. So let's dive in. So Sunil, starting with you, I think we all know AI is a game changer. And it's created conversations none of us thought probably were even possible a couple of years ago. But I'm really curious as to your perspective on the state of the adoption of AI in your organization.
Thank you, Yo. As far as our organization is concerned, I'm actually going to break it up into two parts. One, talk about our industry as a whole. How do capital markets and our clients especially use data and machine learning? And then I'll pivot a little bit and go into CME. So when you think of our clients, and especially our market participants, they are seeking a signal, and they are confronted with 2 billion events a day. And it's very hard to actually separate out the signals you're looking for. So when I say signals, we're talking about correlations. And correlations in financial markets are not stable. They're always evolving. The other things you're looking for is mispricing opportunities, and sometimes even mispricing within a small microsecond boundary. So as you can imagine, the challenges are immense. And our clients use a lot of our data. So if you see today, they spend a lot of their time accessing data, curating data, and then there's a little bit of time spent in training a model. So this has been going on for quite a while. So financial markets are quite ahead in terms of using AI as a discipline. But maybe they are just exploring unsupervised models. But most of the models that financial marketplaces work on is mostly around supervised models because you need greater control. The second aspect, when it comes to CME, we are focused on actually giving our clients visibility into liquidity, the quality of liquidity. When we say quality of liquidity, we mean how tight the market is and how deep the market is. And it is evolving. There's not a single number for the entire day. So it changes. The beginning of the day and the end of the day can be more liquid than at the middle of the day. And there is liquidity evolves around announcements, large announcements. So our goal is to help our clients actually get those insights very fast without having to actually curate the data. Other aspects are around quality of execution. So if you think of a client or a market participant in our industry, the idea is, you can trade as a given risk unit in many different markets, but how do you choose which market is the most valuable and gives you the greatest efficiency? And in order to do that, you need to take into account the capital that is involved, the amount of capital you have to put as an outlay to cover your risk, plus your commissions, and then look at the quality of execution. So this is complex. So working with Google and building these tools with Vertex AI and BigQuery, we were able to do that. But that's the state of the market right now. I will reserve comments on the compliance and the regulatory side. I'll pass on to Rich to address that.
So at HSBC, so the place that I'm most familiar with what we've done with AI is in the compliance space. We've really accelerated our adoption of AI for compliance use cases over the last 4 years. We first started with the idea and the theory that AI would bring out more precision and greater benefits. And now that we've actually deployed the product into HSBC, we're seeing that. And what that's caused is now that there's a tangible benefit use case that is showing demonstrable impact for our organization, we're seeing more use cases being generated, not just by people that are working with the Google team or anyone else, but are raising ideas organically throughout the organization. And it's causing us to ask bigger questions about what do we need to do to actually enable that. You mentioned data. For everyone here, I'm sure data is always going to be a core part of this, because for us, the first thing we had to do is get our data in order, and we have to do that more broadly to support some of the other use cases. So going back to the question, I see accelerating interest in use of AI as it transitions from theoretical benefit to actual tangible benefit that the organization can realize.
I appreciate that. And I think what's really important in that is it's not about generative AI. You guys have been doubling down on AI for some time, and I think that gets lost in some of the conversation. While generative AI has made it cool to talk about AI again, you really focused that first, which has been really important. Sunil, switching gears a little bit, so what does the vision look like at CME, and what are some of the biggest challenges for realizing that vision, do you think?
I'll start by painting the vision and then go into challenges a little bit. So what we envision is a world where we can reduce the time and the toil to actually build a model and train a model. Today, I believe, most of us believe that it takes about 80% of the effort is curating data, collecting, curating data, and then there is 20% of the effort is on the model. So we'd like to flip that. So we've built a single universal data platform on BigQuery. It has over 26 petabytes of data. So imagine instantaneous snapshot, market snapshot for over 10 years. So during different periods, so volatile periods, quiet periods. So the way we think of it, we think a financial analyst or a quant at a desk should be able to actually open a workbench and then integrate, connect very easily to this data platform and build and train their model. And then when they derive those insights, should be able to go from insights to action very quickly with a click of a button. So that's what we're seeking to build. So from the ground up, the biggest challenge is getting all data in one place. I think without that, everything is just a conversation, right? So it's you're not making headway. So we've overcome that struggle. The second is confidentiality and privacy and security of data. So it's important to build that, and we've done that. We've done amazing amount of work, including building customized packages, product packages based on a subscription. So a client would say, I want my data along with the market snapshot for this time window. So the ability to build a single time sequence stream, event stream for that client to train a model, by the end of this year, we'll have that capability. So available to any modeling enthusiast who wants to actually link to that data if they have rights to do so and train their model. The part that will be challenging is to go from that to execution. So several challenges have to be overcome, I feel. in order to go from model design to execution, but we are getting there. I think with our partnership with Google and the way we'll connect our markets to an analytic engine will allow us to actually integrate from insights to action. And that's the challenge that we see.
That's a big lift.
Yeah, that's a big lift.
Just on that, Rich, how did you get the organization bought in? Because this is much about cultural change as it is about, it's the EQ as much as it is the IQ.
No, you're absolutely right. And you can't talk about it. PowerPoints don't do justice. The best thing to do is prototyping. So we worked on a prototype last year, and it took us 16 weeks to actually build a benchmarking tool. This is another product that we are keen on building with our clients. So the objective of this tool is to give every client the ability to compare their performance with the market and also compare their performance with other peer groups around. Those peer groups are calibrated or built around certain common characteristics. So we came up with 50 features, 50 execution characteristics, and we had to break that dimension down and build about 6 peer groups. And it's important to keep that peer group stable because people change their execution behavior, right? And to be able to compare your performance against that, that's absolutely fantastic.
So it's more
and we were able to do that in 16 weeks. So once we showed that, I mean, the entire organization is now bought into the value of that. Our goal right now is to actually build confidence amongst our clients so they can take advantage of that tool.
Makes sense. So Rich, I'd love to get your reaction to some of those challenges and go one step further and share a little bit about HSBC's, how they're planning on taking the AI vision into practice.
So when it comes to challenges, we were not short for any whatsoever. And some of the points that you made definitely resonate with me about data. If I never have to see data again, I'm quite happy because I've now had to upend so many HSBC systems to try and migrate into the cloud. And we're missing something. And all of that challenge is real. I would say one of the areas that I wasn't expecting a challenge, but really became one, was on some of our model risk governance, of being able to articulate how an AI model works in a way that's going to actually go through a model risk governance process and be reviewable by regulators in a way that is actually commonsensical enough for those regulators to understand, taking those very complex approaches and distilling them into something that humans can understand is not always very easy. And when I say humans, I mean regulators and people that aren't familiar with this on a day in, day out. I'd just go back to the follow-up question that you had. My number one challenge were the people. And not that they were challenging, but everyone in the financial services industry has built their entire career in a place where strict rules were the go-to way that you would manage your risk automatically or in an automated way. Teaching them how to do something slightly different really challenged them on their thinking. And it's not just a piece of kit that can just drop in and replace your pre-existing system. You have to change the end-to-end framework, how you think about it. People got very comfortable over the last 20, 30 years of, I know that this system is looking for X because I told it to look for X, and that's what I want it to do. To change that approach to using an AI-based model and looking at the outputs to see if that model is detecting what you are hoping it to detect instead of just telling it what to detect is a very different approach, and that means that you have to change your entire framework. So there's the framework and the process piece, but then also making it explainable to the people that are going to receive the outputs of the model is a whole separate challenge that took as much work as some of the engineering work did. The last point I'll just make is some of the skepticism that's out there about AI. AI has been talked about quite a bit. And when you come in and you say, we're going to find more financial crime or do X or do Y, there's a certain element of skepticism that you have to overcome. And you're exactly right. Prototype, experiment, and then put evidence in front of people. But for each market that we would deploy this new product into, it was always the same story. I don't believe what you're telling me. And there was this initial resistance for a few months until we could get their data, experiment with it, and then produce that initial set of results. And once they saw that initial set of results, then they would buy in because you're now confronting them with evidence about how it is working. But there is a healthy amount of skepticism on whether it's too good to be true. And so overcoming that by showing them that it is actually better is a huge part of how we won some of the hearts and minds to get people invested in it.
And I think both of you, it wasn't just your internal customer, but you have to convince your external customer. For you, you've got to think about regulators and getting buy-in on this new process. And you mentioned how you're trying to convince the customers to come along, your customers to come along on this journey with you. So it's not just that EQ of internally, but it's how do you take it that one step further, which you...
Exactly.
It's a great point because we've had to interact with about 30 regulators globally around the world. And we almost have to do it in 3 stages of just talking about what we intend to do. Then we start to show them some of the results interim. And then we can show them, hey, we now know it's going to work in the way that we expected, and we're going to turn this on. Yeah. But it takes that developmental staging with the regulators just as much with the internal stakeholders. And you do still get that same skepticism of, I don't believe it, show me.
Yeah.
And so you have to be prepared to show.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully most people know that we launched, Google Cloud launched their AML AI product just a couple of months ago, which has been a huge success. And thank you so much, because this was all done in partnership with HSBC, and you've had phenomenal results as a result of that. So 2 to 4x more identification of suspicious activity and 60% reduction in volume, which is huge when you start to think about going from that rule-based model and switching over and allowing AI to lead and drive and predict those outcomes. So congratulations. It actually led you to win the Model Risk Manager of the Year award, which was phenomenal. So huge congratulations on that. But I'd love to hear more from you about your teams. How were they collaborating with Google? What were the concerns along the way? I mean, doing something this big with a third party isn't a traditional norm. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
You know, it's actually really interesting. We had high-level buy-in from the top down. And there was some initial feeling out between the 2 teams, I think, of what do you know that I don't know, and why don't you just give us access to your tools, and we can do it on our side. We're a bank. We have some brilliant data scientists, but nothing is going to be done all internal. So we had to partner, and we had to set that out from the outset that we're coming in with financial crime knowledge and a healthy sense of adventure to try this. Google, we need you to bring your technical prowess, your engineering skills, and your cloud computing space, and let's come together and work through this. The biggest learning I have from this, for me personally, was we approached Google with what we thought we wanted to do. We thought, we know we want A, B, and C. We had to strip that way back, actually, to get down to what are we trying to achieve? What are our objectives? We want to find more financial crime. We want to have less false positives. Once we stripped it back to those core objectives, we were able to actually work through how we got there much more collaboratively than before, because there are things that we didn't know were within the art of the possible in partnering with Google. And that's the point of a partnership, is to figure out things that you don't know. So we came in with some preconceived notions of, well, we don't know how that can be done, so obviously it can't be done, so we actually just want to do option C. And when we started speaking with the engineering team, they're like, why are you doing that? You want to get here, you want to find more financial crime, the easiest way to do that is this. And we didn't even think that that was an option. So we had to strip away our own preconceived notions, our own limitations, our own kind of thinking about this through the HSBC lens, and leave that to the side and really come together and say, what are we trying to achieve? Can we achieve it together? And what's the best way to do that? And that was when the partnership really came to life, where we were able to work collaboratively together, leveraging each other's skills with a healthy amount of respect between the 2 teams. And that's ultimately how it got to be successful.
Yeah. Sunil, you're going on the same and similar, thank you, Rick, by the way, but you're going on the same and similar journey. This is a partnership that requires innovation and big thinking. Anything you can share in that area?
Well, we're trying a few things. On the AI and machine learning side, our goal is to try and build a client sandbox. So to build this confidence, the level of confidence we talked about. So with this client sandbox, a quant doesn't have to actually, go through the pain of acquiring the data within their tenant space, curating it, and then making it available for a model. So by co-locating data, they can bring their own data and use our data lake. They can build a model that combines the two. So the innovation there is to actually build tools that will merge the two data sets while they are not co-located with, they're not actually sitting physically right next to each other, but they're just co-located. So that's something that we're working on. Access to, as I pointed out before, access to this data set dynamically based on the client's interest rather than creating packages of products and then listing them out. That's another thing that we've developed. Going further with Google on the AI side, we saw a video on customer service. We are focused on that using generative AI actually. But it is more around knowledge search, so we're just tipping our toes. Yeah. So there we see two areas of focus. One, to give our clients the ability to get information. We have clients in 150 countries, so they all have different ways of actually querying data. So our goal is to give each one of those clients an instantaneous experience, a conversational experience. So that's something that we plan to release as quickly as we can. The second part is more internally focused, is around Duet and a coding partner or collaborator. And here, what is really powerful is the ability of a collaborator to help us migrate from legacy platforms to newer platforms, especially Oracle to Alloy. That's not very easy. Mm-hmm. Or if you look at, thankfully we don't have mainframes, but we've asked this question, COBOL to Java or something like that. The entire financial services industry is stuck with a lot of legacy, platforms. So that capability is really powerful for us. So those are some of the areas in which we're collaborating with Google.
Awesome. So switching gears a little bit and starting to look to the future, there's so much opportunity. We talk about use cases. In most scenarios, when I go in and start talking to our customers, they're like, here's a list at least of 100+ different use cases out there. But I'd love to learn a little bit from you guys on what do you think the future of AI really looks like, and how do you think it really has an opportunity to disrupt the financial services market? So Sunil, maybe we can start with you.
I'll speak a little bit about our market participants, and then I'll switch over to how CME looks at it. So from our client's perspective, I feel that data and data-driven strategy is only going to accelerate. So we have to make it very simple and easy for the quants to actually train their models and build it. So what I see happening there with the model innovations that we see is a greater use of unsupervised models, not to make trading decisions, but to identify signals, as I talked about, yep. Which is done today in a very controlled way. There will still be this human intervention and controls before that is injected into markets, but we see greater use of that. Risk. So we haven't spoken a lot about risk, but risk is the ability to foresee losses in the future under different market states. Today, it's a data-intensive exercise, and it takes a long time. So we see that changing dramatically. But we don't see this as removing the human involvement, but more of aiding our quants in identifying risk scenarios that can exhaust a set of resources that are set aside. So reverse stress testing is one area that we think will evolve. So I can't speak a lot about generative AI, but at least in those two areas, we can see us taking advantage of all the advancements and transformers.
Awesome. Thank you. Rich, what about you?
So I think it all boils down to just more broad adoption of AI is what I foresee. The use cases are coming fast and furious at us from all over the place. But I think most when I talk about the regulator aspect, I have a friend who's just retired. What I'm about to say will give you a hint to his age. But when he first was starting in compliance, it was back before we even had any sort of automated monitoring of customer accounts. It was all done by humans with Excels. A hard time. When they first started building automated monitoring software, he went into the regulators and they said, how can you get comfortable that this software is doing what the human was doing as well? And then it became industry standard within 5 years. I think we're fairly close to that same time period now where we've had to go in and convince regulators that this works and it's better. And now that we're seeing that it is better and the regulators are seeing that it's better, within the next 5 years, I do expect those regulators to say, you have this capability, why aren't you using AI to do this better, faster, more efficiently, with better outcomes? And so when I think about what's coming in the next 5 years, I think now that theory of the benefit of AI is translating into actual demonstrable evidence of that benefit. And the question's going to switch from how did you get comfortable for using it to why aren't you using it? And that's what I think is coming in the next few years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Rich, Sunil, thank you so much for joining me on stage. More importantly, thank you for being such phenomenal partners with all of us. And we really, really appreciate the journey that we're on together. So thank you.
Here.